Morning and welcome to this session of mFiles Quick Tips. Today, I'll be sharing my tips on how to become a super user. Before we get too far, if I could just have you raise your hand if you can hear my voice, making sure that my audio is getting through to everybody. So if you could raise your hand to let me know that you can hear me, that would be awesome. So just raise your hand to let me know that you can hear me. Awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get started with today's quick tip. I'm going to be talking about how you can become a super user inside of mFiles. Now, there's a little caveat that's going on right now with the mFiles interface. We have two of them to work with. You have the classic one that most people are currently using, and you have the new one that mFiles made available late October of last year. Now, the reason that these two interfaces are available, well, let me back up. They're available if you're using the new protocol. That is the gRPC protocol. mFiles has come up with a method of transitioning to a new interface by allowing you to run both of them at the same time so that you can let mFiles know if there's any issues or features that you are missing that are necessary in the new interface. And I'll show you how to share that as well. So with that said, I'll be sharing my tips and tricks within the classic, and then I will also share my tips and tricks in the new interface, along with talking about some help resources that are available to you inside of both interfaces. Let's get started. So inside of the classic interface, let me bring that up here for you. So I am inside of the classic interface, and that is actually noted in the upper right hand of your screen. Notice I have that switch. That switch is telling me that my IT department is using the new protocol, and my mFiles admin is allowing me to switch back and forth. Okay, so let's get started. The first thing is, in one of my tips, is to know where you are inside of mFiles. And mFiles tells you. In the upper left-hand corner, you can see the word Marco Training. That is the vault that I'm currently in. When I go into one of my common views by double-clicking, you can see that mFiles is leaving me some breadcrumbs to let me know where I am. The other cool thing with this is if I want to go back just one view, I could click on that breadcrumb and it takes me back to that view. That is very handy and easy. Also, just as a quick note, is you can use the back key to back up one step also. I'm going to click all here to go back to the main menu. The other cool thing is some people may or may not know this, is inside of the mFiles program, you can actually open up two mFiles at the same time. Now you might be asking, why would I want to do that? Great question. You may have content within mFiles that you want to see, and also other content inside of mFiles that you need to see, and you want to see them side by side. So you can do that. Pretty nice. Let me go back to my one screen. The other thing is when you get into inside of a document, let's assume this vendor invoice, for example. Now, I want to see the metadata card, and let's say there's a lot of information on that metadata card, but I also want to see a nice big view of the document, a preview. I can actually pop out the metadata card with this icon. What that does is it separates it from the mFiles interface, opening up a new window, allowing me to be able to bring that into a full screen as well as move it around. And that is very handy so that I can maybe bring it to a second monitor if I have a second monitor. And then I can open up my preview and make it very large. So give me the capability of large images of preview as well as the metadata card. Let me go back to metadata. There we go. Click on all to get back to the home screen. Another thing that is very handy is inside of the mFiles interface, sometimes people get in a situation where they've tried to make some changes to their interface and let's say they screwed things up or made the wrong change. By right-clicking in this area, you have the capability of resetting your interface. Up above there, you also have display mode changes as well. So you can set this up to your preferences. Now, if you do want to reset it, when you click on the reset here, you have two choices to choose from. And that will reset your display. Very handy in case you get into an area or something happened that you don't like in your display. A lot of us power users like to, when they fire up their mFiles, like to start off right where they start to work. How can I do that? Great question. You can actually go to your profile and you can control where mFiles opens up to. So let's say I want mFiles to open up on my Pin tab. So I'm going to click on the Home tab here. I'm going to go down to Pinned. And it tells me I saved that. So now when I log out of mFiles and I log back into mFiles, it will start on the Pin tab. Very handy. That leads me into my next item, dealing with pins. Pins are a replacement for favorites. Now, if you do a little digging, you can still access some of your all favorites inside of mFiles. What pins are doing is, like I said, replace favorites. As you take a look here, I have a couple categories. To add another category, it's as simple as clicking on the plus sign. I get to name it, just that simple. Pretty nice. Now, if I want to expand all my items in my pins, I can do that. If I want to move things around, very easy to do. If I want to collapse, I can collapse. If I want to search, I can search. Very handy. I'm going to click all here, go back, and I'm going to change my user settings back to the all or home tab. Now, those are some of my tips for the classic view. If you do have tips of your own that you would like to share, please use the chat window. Also, if you have any questions during today's webinar, please share that in the chat window as well. I'm now going to switch to the new version by clicking up here, and that takes us to the new interface inside of mFiles. So let's start off with some of the things, the tips and tricks that you can do here. Inside of my common view, when I go into my common view, mFiles is also giving me breadcrumbs in the new interface like in the classic. So it tells me the vault I'm in, the common view, and the sub view. If I'm going to go back, just that simple. I'm going to click all for the home screen. Now, mFiles in the new interface also gives you the capability of switching vaults by clicking up here on the house. So if you have access to more than one vault, you are able to switch back and forth very easily. The house appears when you have access to more than one vault. If you do not, you will not see the house because you only have one vault to pick from. Now, looking back at my view, one of the other cool things that I can do here is I can go to these three dots and I can actually make this a tab. And it looks like I already did that. So up here, I've added that view as a tab to my navigation. Now, what does that mean? Well, if I go to all here real quickly, remember that I can control where mFiles starts when I open up. Now, since I have my own tab up here, it's assigned the name of personal because I personally put that tab up there. So if I select that and click Save, I now have the capability of, when I log out and log back into mFiles, it will start on the Common View application workflow. Pretty slick. And again, these are some of my tips. If you have any tips in the new interface and you'd like to share that, please do so in the chat window. Also, any questions you might have. I'll go back to all here. I'm going to change my settings back to the all. And let's say I no longer want that application workflow up there. When I go to these three dots, now I can remove the tab. If I wanted to share, if I had a personal view and I wanted to share it with somebody, I can actually copy the link and then I can actually paste that into an email to share with one of my coworkers. And that would be for a personal view. Common views everybody sees, so that's already there. Now, if something comes up where you're in the new interface and you're not able to do something, that happens. It's still a work in progress. And you have to switch back to the Classic. When you switch back to the Classic, mFiles is going to ask you what is going on. So I'm going to say functionality is missing. Yeah. And I'm going to say advanced search. And then if I need to discuss it more, I can do that in the bottom. Then when I click on save, that information gets sent back to mFiles so they can make a better interface for everybody. I want to talk about some accessing help inside of mFiles because help resources are very important. And what you want to do is you want to be able to access it when you have a question. So if I go up here in the Classic view and I was to click up here and press F1 for help, mFiles is going to open up my browser and bring me to the quick search inside of the user's guide. Nice. Now you do need internet access on your PC for this to work because it is a hosted site, so mFiles can keep the information current and accurate for the version that you're working on. I'm going to minimize that. So you have F1 help inside of the new interface. When I switch back, you have a big question mark up by your profile. And when you click on this, it brings up information dealing with the mFiles Help Center. So it provides a lot of good access to information that you may have a question about. One of the things that mFiles offers is the mFiles Academy. The mFiles Academy is right now pretty much comes with everybody's user license. And mFiles gives you access to their LMS for 100 users. So you can have your employees going in there and learning more about mFiles. If you have any questions about that or would like to learn more about it, please put your email in and more information about the Academy in the chat window, and I will send that your way. Now, what I'd like to do now is open it up for any questions or concerns that you might have right now with inside of our webinar, Quick Tips, or if you have a tip that you would like to share. Oh, I had a great question come in. Is there any way, Dave, that in that classic view, the classic interface, that I can make one of my views disappear? Great question. So what they're talking about is a common views. Let's assume that you as a user work in the HR and you only deal with applications. You have nothing to deal with the invoices or accounting. When I go to the invoice workflow, I can right click on this and I can go to hide view. When I do this, and this would only be for my profile, it hides that view for just me. So it was a common view shared by the administrator that I hid because I didn't need to see it. So that gives me the capability of being more efficient and only seeing what I need. Now, if for some reason you get to a point where, well, they're not seeing that common view, what do? You go to this area, right click, and you can go to unhide views, and that gives you the capability of adding the view back or views, depending on what they've done. Great question. Okay, make sure that answered it. Awesome. Okay, we had a tip come up that I don't know if too many people know about this one. Let me see if let's see here. We'll share this one real quickly. I'm going to go back to the new. I'm going to create a new document. And we'll do this one as a application. I'll go down to HR. And we'll do it as a Microsoft Word document. Awesome. And what they're talking about, they said the tab key. Now, some of you, if you're old school Windows users, you like using the keyboard more than the mouse. And a lot of people got used to using the tab key to move field to field. Well, inside of mFiles, initially that was sort of disjointed. Now what they've done is when you use the tab key, they make sure that you're moving field to field so that you can move through your metadata card in the logical order all the way down. And if you want to select a button, like I have cancel highlighted, I press the enter key, and then I am going to say okay to cancel that. Great idea. I'm going to go back to the classic view here real quick. Notice how quickly I can switch back and forth. Oh, we had another tip come in. This one's sort of unique. Let's talk more about this one. This one is dealing with permissions. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to create a new document. And a lot of people do have questions about permissions. They're not quite sure what happens. So I'm going to create, let's see here. Let's do a application again. I'm going to select that. I'm going to do Word document. Perfect. Okay. So what happens when you open up or add a new document to mFiles, you are dealing with permissions, and those are down here in the lower left-hand corner. When I click on that, it opens up my permissions window. Now, what I'm showing you right now is I can't change anything. So permissions are actually controlled by your administrator of mFiles. But there are some areas that you have capability depending on how much they lock down mFiles. So in this class, I can't do anything or change permissions. Makes sense. It's in a workflow and they don't want you changing stuff. So I'm going to do cancel. I'm going to go up to my class and I'm going to change my class to unclassified. Now notice what happens. You get a warning that permissions change, the yellow box, which goes away. So I'm going to add an unclassified document to the vault. When I go down to the full control here, permissions again, now notice I have full control. I can control who can see and who can edit the document that I add. And this is done through permissions inside of MFiles. So I could say maybe only for me to see or edit. Just that simple. Pretty cool. And that's dealing with permissions inside of MFiles. Great question. Oh, you probably noticed that I made my metadata card full screen. So I'm going to cancel that and discard my changes. Let's see if there's any other questions that came up. Dave, is there any other help that Marco offers? Another great question. Yes, there is. Let me jump back here real quickly. Marco offers some of our help, and that is done through the website. Well, actually, hold on just a second. Let's go here. Okay. So at the Marco website, at the very bottom of the screen, you're going to see something called Knowledge Base. And in that knowledge base area is where you go to this area and you're going to see either MFiles for Marco or MFiles. The MFiles Help Center will take you to that large web page that I showed a moment ago. MFiles Resources from Marco brings you to an area where you can list and search some of the information that I've uploaded for your capability. And you can review that information at any time. We also have the information as we record our quick tips are available here as well as on the Marco YouTube channel. And a lot of people like accessing YouTube because it is a quick and easy way to get your information by watching a video. I'm not seeing any other questions in the window here. Our next quick tip is going to be on February 18th of this year. Remember, that's the third Tuesday of the month. At the end of today's session, please provide your feedback on how I did today. Also, you can see we got some question marks. We don't know what our next topic's going to be next month. So if you have some ideas that you would like to see for the next quick tip, please share it. Also, if you want to share it by sending an email to software@marconet.com, you can do that as well. You can scan the QR code, takes you to the Marco webpage to see what that topic is going to be. I would like to thank everybody for attending. For myself as well as Marco, have a great day.